Hello and welcome. Today we are wrapping up Unit 5. I really enjoyed this unit. I enjoyed this unit because it was something that was familiar to me, where most of the other units it was something completely different that I've never done before. But at least I know that I've been lesson planning for the last 2.5 years, and the Teach Now template was much different than the lesson plan that I use every single day to teach ESL. So it also allowed me to think out of my comfort zone and take something that I'm interested and passionate about. So I was able to take the 5th grade standard for media arts. I was able to unpack my standard, then use backwards design to create 3 lessons. And within the 3 lessons, we created a unit plan. And along the way, I was able to reflect about things that I would change, things that I did well, and also in each lesson incorporating 21st century skills or making the lesson more multicultural. So with all these, I was able to think about what my classroom would look like and how I would teach the lesson. So let's go ahead and get to it. And how effective would I rate my lesson planning? I was pretty confident at the beginning to plan the whole lesson. I enjoy organizing lessons. For me, it makes me think about everything in the whole. I do think at the beginning I did miss the mark when it came to thinking about different disabilities, because this was a fake class. This isn't the students that I would have. So I would say I missed the mark a little bit. There were things that I would change. So, but overall, I was happy and surprised with my result the first time that I attempted to make a unit lesson. So I'd probably give myself, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give myself a 7. What led to my revisions? I'm going to go ahead and show you my revisions and some of the things that I did, but it was mostly from Maureen's comments. I didn't receive any other comments. I know some of the first feedback that Maureen pointed out to me was that I needed to differentiate my lesson for specific needs, and I'll go ahead and pop her remark right up here so everybody can see it pretty quickly. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and through my lesson plan. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down here. I was pretty happy with everything else, how I unpacked the standard, how I was able to sequence. I didn't change anything here, but I'll talk about later some other ideas that I did have that I did write on my lesson. So I thought that was solid. So I did cross off because it just wasn't enough ESL and various needs. It wasn't specific enough. So I went ahead and took the chart that was in our Teach Now folder and used Asperger's and thought about if there was a student with Asperger's in my class, and dyslexia and what I could do with a student with dyslexia, language processing, paralyzed from the waist down. And paralyzed from the waist down was really important for me because being a media arts student myself, through elementary school through high school, there was actually many wheelchair bound students, and it really made me think about how gifted and talented they were at the art, but really thought about where the wheelchair had to be placed. They really needed their space, clear pathways, and how, even though they're wheelchair bound, that you don't want to treat them any different than they already are. And anytime you have a chance to come to their level face to face and talk to them, that is important as well. So there's some of the changes that I made on my unit plan. So the next change that I made is Maureen suggested that I add some kind of engaging game. Although I think that I was there when it came to 21st century skills and collaborative work that I did need to add some games. And first, my rationalization for not adding games is because when I looked at all of the media arts standards together, most of the lessons were very game based driven. So I think that's why I didn't have as many games, because I'm the first one that really enjoys creating and have engaging students in games. So I took out the reflective journal sentence or remark, and instead I gave the students a little bit less time, which I feel that the students could finish within 25 minutes because everything on the wiki page is laid out, and it is only 3 questions, and we are assuming that the students already have prior wiki knowledge and how to upload. So we're assuming they know how to do everything. So I added a formative assessment game where the students will go ahead and play a PowerPoint Jeopardy game, which is more engaging. So I went ahead and crossed off the reflective journal essay, which was for homework, and 3 insights that I gained. So many insights. I would say my biggest message and reflection would be that a lesson plan is like art. It's never completely done or finished, and if you think that it's perfect, you should really go look back, because there is never a right or wrong way, and you could use the same lesson for your next year students, or maybe you have 3 5th grade media arts classes, and a lesson could work for one class and doesn't work for another class. So you would always need ways to think about the students that are in your class. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you how I gained insight with creating my lessons. All right, for me, the biggest insight was to first unpack a standard. I think foremost unpacking your standard and then backwards mapping. I think once you know where you're going at the end and working backwards, everything completely falls into place. So I think unpacking a standard first and then backwards mapping, and then with that you can find your objectives. And then once those 3 elements are put into place, everything else is just making your lessons more rich and in detailed. So one of the biggest insights that I got is when we were asked to make our lessons more multicultural. So I actually took my first lesson and changed it around a bit. So with that, I took the same McDonald's commercial. So on a side note, I hope you do not think that I like McDonald's. It's just very world recognized. So I took the McDonald's commercial, I kept it the same, but to make it multicultural, I used several different McDonald's commercials, where in each McDonald's commercial you can get a glimpse of how each culture lives. Like, for example, Malaysia, it's customary for children to bring their parents food. And through the commercial, students are able to learn about each other's cultures or different cultures. So I was able to, I think the multicultural, that was one of my biggest insights, is slightly asking for one more element really made my lesson plan more rich. Number 4, what part of my lesson plan became the most critical to implement? I would say after I did a lot of research on media arts and how we as educators can not just say that we are teaching Photoshop, or not saying that we're teaching how to edit a video, but to just use those tools and applications as more of a vessel. So for me, it was the most important part was staying true to my objectives, because I think in any art, whether you're painting or you're dancing, I think really with the National Core Art Standards, they want you to use your art as a vessel to get to your objective. So for me, it was talking about media literacy. So, and I tried not to stray away and not to think about the programs and applications, because it is important, because you think of why are students interested, and whether it's dance or art, and for my fact it's media arts. Most students, because they're interested in video editing and making movies and communication, whether it be broadcast journalism, they're interested in that area. So for me, I think the most important part for me to implement was staying true to my objectives and not getting I do think when you are a special elective teacher, especially at a magnet school, and that was really where my unit plan was going for, a magnet school, performing arts school, students that were really interested in this subject. So not that I would say it would be hard not to engage the students, but I think the students are already very interested in the subject, or they wouldn't be in that class. But I think you can tell if students are engaged if they're really in the zone. I think it doesn't matter if any type of art, you can really tell, just me being an artist myself, when a student is like, why do I have to go? Is time up? I'm not done working on this. When they're engaged in the conversation, when they're interested in more than just the application. Like I mentioned before, you have to be careful that you're not saying this, we're going to learn Photoshop today, we're going to learn Illustrator, when they're actually interested in breaking down the commercial, and they have interesting opinions that even you as a teacher haven't even critically thought about. So it's coming up with new ideas and discussing. So for me, that's how I know my students are engaged. In conclusion, I thought this was a great unit to learn how to build a unit lesson, even though my unit was fictitious. Maybe someday in the very far future I'll be able to teach media arts. In the meantime, it's a work in progress, and even after I completed this assignment, I still thought about things that I could improve in my lesson. Okay, thank you. Have a good day.